I know a lot of you have seen the ARC report. The ARC stands for the Accountability Reporting for the Community Colleges and was designed by the Chancellor's Office to measure performance for individual colleges and for the state system as a whole. And in addition to giving you the results for the colleges, it gives comparisons to statistically similar colleges. So there's a peer group for each measure that you can compare yourself against. The peer groups vary on the different factors that they think affect that indicator. So it could be income, it could be the size of the college, it could be the educational level of folks in that community. So they're different for each group, but it allows you to see how you're doing relative to places that are similar to you, not to tiny colleges or colleges in a high income area or something. So we're going to look at both those things. We're going to see how we're doing against ourselves, and we're going to see how we do in comparison to our peers. So let's see what we got here. So before we get going, I want to thank Kay Nguyen, our new research and planning director, for these very nice charts. She saved me a lot of time, and I think they'll really help you see pretty quickly how things are going and what the trends are, since we don't have a ton of time to dig into the numbers. So this first one is the student progress and achievement rate. So this is probably the most important one. And you can see the way ARC works is that they look at a cohort of students over a period of time. It varies a little bit from measure to measure. This one is for 6 years. So for this measure, they looked at first-time students who showed intent to complete and measured whether they achieved any of these following outcomes in 6 years. They either transferred, they earned an AA or a certificate worth at least 18 units, or they achieved transfer-directed status. So you can see for this first period, we were at about 43.5 from 2001 to 2007. Then the next period, we went down a tiny bit. And then in this last period, we really had a bit of a dip. So we have to, I guess, ask ourselves why that happened and what could we do to change that. And on the next slide, you can see how we compared to our peers. So this is a more worrisome slide, I think. The black line is where the average is for our peer group. So you can see that we are just about at the bottom of our peer group on this measure. We're about 7 points below the average, and there's about 15 or 16 to the highest college in our peer group. So we got a lot of room to improve in this area. So that's the time we have to have some conversations about what do we think is keeping people from finishing and whatever their goal was to be. The next one, this is a little more straightforward. This is just the percent of students who earned 30 units in this 6-year period. Okay. So they're first-time students. They took at least 6 units in a fall term. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped onto another one. So this is if they finished 30 units in this period of time. So this one's much better, where the first period was about 68%, 71%. We dipped a little to 70. And if you look at the peer group, we're almost at the average. We're a little bit below, though there is an 11-point jump to the most successful college in our group. So again, there's plenty of room to do a little better on this. Persistence rate, this is actually one of our strongest categories. And the way they measure it is to look from fall to fall. So if students took at least 6 units in one fall term, then they look to see if they came back in the following fall, actually at any college in the system. So this has been rising for us from 71 to 73 to 75, so we're on an upward trend. And if you look at the next slide, we're actually doing very well. We're almost at the top of our peer group in this category. We're just a couple points off and a fair amount above the average. So folks are persisting, so then I guess our question is, why aren't they achieving and completing what they wanted to do? They seem to be sticking around in some fashion. The next measure, this is also pretty straightforward. Now, this time they're just looking at 1 year. They're not doing that over time period. So they're looking at a certain year for successful completion of a vocational course. So this has stayed pretty constant, 73%, 70%, 71. So that's just in a single year, people who are taking vocational courses, do they succeed? And if you look at our peers, we're about 4 points off the average. And again, there's a 17-point spread to the top college in our group. So again, there's plenty of room to do better, though that one is at a pretty good number.